Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya-madhyamam Asmadacharya-paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Any questions, clarifications, or shall we go ahead? We saw Krishna saying that, hey, nobody sees me as I am. Okay. Yeah. You know, one reason for this is Krishna Avatara is one avatara where even though he knew what he was, that he was Maheshwara himself come down, he behaved in the most normal way possible. Okay. Not that Rama did not behave normally. In fact, Rama behaved only as a human being. But at least he was like Maryada, Purushottamaha, etc. Always following the book. But Krishna threw the book out of the window. Okay. What book are you talking about? Like, you know. So, many people didn't get him for what he was. Okay. Yeah. Many people didn't get him for what he was. Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead. Now he is talking about not recognizing Ishvara in your life. What can happen to you? Okay, little bit extreme, but it can go up to this level, like, you know. Okay, let's see the next verse. That's the 12th verse which we have to do. Okay, he's saying, Moghashaha mogha karmanaha mogha jnana vikchetasaha Rakshasim asurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shritaha. Remove moksha from your life. Remove Ishvara from your life. No acknowledgement of Ishvara. Even rudimentary acknowledgement not there. Like most people do, there is a higher power. I don't expect my students to say higher power, okay? I'll ask you all whether you want 93 octane fuel or what. What higher power are you talking about? Okay, yeah. If Ishvara is not there in your life, what becomes predominant? Arthakama. Arthakama becomes predominant. Yeah. Unless without Ishvara you are trying to bring in some sort of spirituality. Some sort. It's a little bit vague. Without Ishvara, spirituality will always be a bit vague. But if you are not trying to do that, Arthakama becomes main. Moksha is not there. The chances of dharma also becomes shaky. There are people who don't acknowledge Ishvara but can have dharma in their lives. Recognizing a universal framework of ethics. But remember one thing, anything you recognize as universal is Ishvara actually. Because dharma is nothing but a manifestation of Ishvara. That's why in some places they will translate dharma as God, which is acceptable to an extent. But dharma cannot be translated as religion, okay? That's a not a healthy translation. Okay. So if you don't recognize dharma, then what happens? If you don't recognize dharma, then your life will be exactly what he describes in this verse. What is that? Mogha asha. All your dreams and hopes, desires are born of delusion. Okay. Even otherwise, the desires with a dharmic base has some humanness about it. Desires without a dharmic base goes haywire, Moghasha, Mogha karmana. Therefore, your karmas also become like that. You want things by hook or by crook, that's all. Okay. Mogha jnana. What is your understanding of life? Delusory understanding of life. You may be a thinker, but you are chopping off a major issue from your life. A major aspect that is there is knocked off. Okay. Vichetasaha, avivekanaha. Without a mind, meaning not being vivek is enough. Not that everyone who recognizes Ishvara becomes like this, but the chances of deteriorating like this are higher. There's an arthavada here, exaggeration, to highlight the importance of recognizing Ishvara and dharma in your life. Therefore, he says, Rakshasim asurim chaiva prakritim mohinim shrutaha. Rakshasim asurim swabhavam, he says, your life becomes more like that of a Rakshasa or an Asura. Okay. In the Ramayana, look at Ravana himself, a religious person. Bhakti was there in him. I mean, what was missing in his life? His understanding of Ishvara was only like a devata. Why? I will do this tapas and I will get this boon. He can't refuse me. He can't dare to say no to me. Why? I have done all the action. He has to give it to me. Correct, eh? If you do all the action, he has to give it to you. So, his understanding of Ishvara is also like someone to trade with, I scratch your back, you scratch my back, It's a trade. I'll give you all this for you, you'd give me all this. Yeah. Therefore, dharma goes out then. Dharma goes out. When Rama catches his first glimpse of Sri Lanka, he is wonderstruck at the beauty of the whole thing, at the pomp and glory and the richness of the whole thing. The Ayodhya is nothing compared to that. In terms of prosperity and this thing, huge. Yeah. The pomp, the glory, the this. Okay. The wealth available. What is missing? Dharma was missing, everything else was there. Therefore, Rakshasim Asurim Chaiva Prakritim Mohinim Shritaha. And what are you depending on? Delusory thinking. Completely delusory thinking. Whereas even if a simple idea of Ishvara is brought in, rudimentary idea. Not as Ishvara, Karma Phaladata, Karma Dikshaha, the intelligence and material behind the whole creation. Forget all that. Even rudimentary, some sort of dharma will come into their lives automatically. Some sort. Look at people around you. You will understand this. Yeah. Some sort of dharma will be there. Yes, there have been people, great thinkers. Like Bertrand Russell was one, who had no understanding of Ishvara, God, but highly ethical person. You look at his writings and everything. Yeah. Very ethical, very clean, very this thing. That's fine. Dharma was there. Rare. Rare people. That is why, if secular is cutting off God from your life, it's unhealthy. Our modern secular education, when God is left out of this thing, very bad. You have to give it a lot to your kids at home. If that is not given at home, the youngsters grow up with very questionable value structure. Why? Why doesn't a youngster cheat in his exam? It's so natural to cheat. This is so competitive, it's so natural to cheat if there is no dharma. If at all they don't cheat, it is because of fear of getting caught. It's not because there is a healthy value structure. Yeah, but we have moral science in school. Oh my God, that was the most ridiculous thing ever taught. Pathetic it was. Yeah. Why should we obey God's laws? Because God loves us. ये क्या बात है? God loves me and therefore I should obey Him. Why doesn't He do what I want for a change if He loves me so much? Ridiculous. No, that was very stupid. But here he is talking about an extreme trend, okay? This is not normal. Everyone who doesn't accept God in their lives doesn't become a Rakshasa or an Asura. It doesn't become like that. But showing how much you can go. How much you can go. That type of thinking will come because one very important aspect of your life is gone. Very important aspect. Because then your whole paradigm of life becomes very materialistic. Materialistic meaning it is based on matter. There is nothing like spirit. Mind also becomes an expression of matter. Consciousness becomes an expression of matter. You may be a great scientist, but where is it going? Then you will start making statements like, politics and religion does not come into the field of science. Correct, eh? But does it not come? If it didn't come, why did you first build the first atom bomb itself? Weaponization will come into science. How can it not come? It should come. I am saying it should come. Why? Because every country requires weapons as a deterrent. It should come. But how you use that weapons will have to be guided by dharma. Otherwise, you will make foolish mistakes. Like it is claimed, it's claimed. Now, whether China discovered gunpowder or India discovered gunpowder is a big question mark, okay? But the general view is Chinese discovered gunpowder 300 years before the British. And they banned the usage of it because it was too dangerous. Then what happened? When the British ships came to Hong Kong and started shelling mainland, they couldn't do anything. What can you do? Against guns lying off, against being offshore and guns being... What can you do? Nothing you can do. And where is dharma in a colonial power anyway? When you are exploiting a country, where is dharma in it anyway? And they used their religious ideas to support their exploitation. Anyway, I don't want to go into the socio-political reasons of all that. Okay? I don't want to go into the socio-political reasons of all that. But the fact remains that adharma, etc., the chances of it are more if you miss out Ishvara in your life. Yeah. Okay, one question has come up. Who's Rakshasa and Asuras? Okay. They are not merely adharmis. Adharma was there. Raksha and Asura was taken historically as a race of people. Okay. As part of the creation. You could even call them, if you want, the dark side of creation. Okay. Like Vanaras. They were another race of people. Remember, only we talk historically, Ramayana, etc. is 7,000 years old, 6,000 years old, etc. But if you go by the figures given in the Ramayana and correlate it with astronomy, not astrology, astronomy is scientific, then it goes back 20,000, 30,000 years. Then the idea of having a race that went out is quite acceptable. Yeah, races of people. And the Rakshasas were also supposed to be genetically modified. Yeah. Supposed to be. Don't ask me for proof in all this, okay? Yeah. That's why I don't talk about this in public, and because no proof available. 30,000 years, who is going to accept it? Because the Western idea of history is not that ancient. There was a time when Western historians followed by, I'll come to that, followed the Christian logic. So they tried to fit in everything within 3,000 years. Then they found Egyptian civilization is older. Then the historians propounded a theory that those ancient societies were not created by God. Then where the hell did they come from? So they were lesser races. They could be exploited. This was one of the arguments given by the slave industry at that time, the slave trade. So even if you had God there, it became Rakshasim and Asurim. How can you take somebody as a slave like that? How can you do that? Yeah. Anyway, that apart. Therefore, he says, this is what happens. Yeah, in science, there is a disconnect from Ishvara, unavoidable, because of the paradigm of science, the limitation of science, that anything that you take as existence has to be available for the 5 sense organs, or extensions of technology for the five sense organs. Only then you will take of a thing as existing. So in other words, science is, if you look at the big picture, science is dealing with what we call as Vyavaharika Satyam, functional reality only. And if the science is willing to stick to that, I am the happiest man with science. Why? You make our functioning life so much comfortable. Let the use of that science and technology be guided by dharma. We don't want religion to guide it. Why? As we have seen, two Western religions are highly exploitative in nature. Therefore, we don't want religion also to guide it. Just dharma, let it be guided. There will be no issues then. Environmental concerns will be addressed. In fact, the solution for environmental hassles come from science, not anywhere else. It can't come from anywhere else. Where else can it come from? I mean, who's that kid? She can go in front of the TV cameras and says, "How dare you," and all that stuff.
Greta.
Greta. But look at the place where she is living. Carbon footprint is very high. Carbon footprint is very high. All the latest technology is used in that country. And she happily enjoys all of them. Yeah. Then I can turn around and say, "How dare you say something like that?" Because there is no real answer. What answer can she give? So science and technology itself has to evolve into green technologies. Only then it will work. Put dharma into it, everything will work out well. Because dharma is vyavahara anyway. That's what he is saying. If Ishvara goes out of the picture, then dharma can also go out of the picture. Because moksha goes out of the picture. Then without moksha as a goal, dharma has got very limited role. If moksha is a goal, dharma becomes the need for your growth. It becomes an important goal. Otherwise, dharma becomes only how to function in society. Therefore, if we can get away with it, we will get away with it. I will cheat on them. Why? They don't know I am cheating on them anyway. So we are functioning okay, na? A dharmic person won't say that. Yeah. Yes, the rule of law is important. Everyone is same. That is only the beginning of dharma. Yeah. Yeah. Living a life of dharma is just the beginning. That okay, you will agree to the rules, laws, regulations, etc. For the functioning of the society, we recognize the need for it. That is minimum. That's not optimum. That's not optimum. Really, it is meant for my growth. Dharma is meant for my growth. And if dharma is meant for my growth, then I need. Why should I grow? Tell me, what is the need for growth? Why should I grow psychologically, spiritually? Why? What growth for? खाओ पियो मजा करो यार, ये सब छोड़ दो, ये सब. Forget all this. Growth. What growth? The only growth I recognize is my business growing. Yeah, industrial growth is good. Yes, my business growing is important. What other growth are you talking about? What for? Growing for what? In fact, people who grow are really unhappy people. They empathize too much with others. Their pain is your pain, etc. पागल बनाए क्या? You are empathetic with the suffering of other people. What for? Your growth is not helping you. All that is fine, that which is true. Yeah. Why do you want to help somebody here? What is the point behind it? You will go down the drain yourself, which is partly true. Therefore, you have to see that when you help somebody else, you don't damage yourself in the process, because then you are not helping yourself. You have to be both. But all that dharma is useful only if you put moksha as an end. Then the whole thing gets a different picture. Why? Because you are going to discover your ananda, not be suffering in pain. Therefore, it gains an edge. It gains an edge. Otherwise, there is no argument that you can make for dharmic living. What argument can you make? Society functioning, that's all you can make. Minimalistic. In fact, it is because of that type of deterioration that we need all these legalities, legal agreements, this, that, etc. Trying to cover all grounds, and lawyers are required to interpret it, etc. But no, there is a loophole here, you can use this loophole. Why? Hey, otherwise what? If I am a dharmic person, I gave you my word, no? We shook hands. I gave you my word and we shook hands. Fine, done. My word is as good as an agreement here. Unless there is a drastic change in the circumstances, then we will renegotiate what we have agreed upon. Simple as that. Yeah. But since that part of dharma is not there, you require safety guards by all these things coming in. So just because you are studying Vedanta, you can be like that you give a word and you will keep it whatever comes. That's good. But don't expect the other person to do the same thing. Okay? They are going for a legal agreement, etc., etc., etc. Don't be foolish. Okay? Dharma works if everyone follows it. Then it will work. Yeah. Then it will work. Yeah. I said I'll give it to you. Finish. That's all. Yeah. Nothing else. Nothing else matters. Yeah. All right. Now you have painted what adharma, how far it can go. Exaggeration. Okay. But how far the problems can be. What about the other side? Mahatmanastu mam partha devim prakritim ashritah bhajanti ananya manasaha jnatva bhutadim avyayam. Mahatmanastu. Who is a Mahatmana? Just one who has recognized Ishvara, that much is enough. Okay, Mahatman. Okay. Hey Partha, Devim Prakritim Ashritaha. They are taking not to the Rakshasim Prakritim, Devim Prakritim. More divine qualities. Okay. Why? Bhajanti Ananya Manasaha. Jnatva Bhutadim Avyayam. Okay. Knowing me as Bhutadi Avyayam, the indeclinable cause for the entire creation, knowing that. Therefore, here the understanding of Ishvara is not rudimentary. Understanding of Ishvara is complete as the whole order of things. Yeah, I think the net is giving some problems, but I think all of you can hear me now. Can all of you hear me or no?
Yes, Swami, we can hear you.
You can hear, no? Okay, okay. All right. Therefore, he says, If you have understood Ishvara as a cosmic order, etc., then bhajanti ananya manasaha. Knowing at least you are non-different from Ishvara, that much you are understanding. Okay, I think this is better. I switched on to the phone. Okay, so he's saying understanding Ishvara and understanding you are non-different from him. Remember, even if you understand Ishvara, Ishvara is totality, everything. Therefore, you are part of him anyway. Minimum that much understanding will be there. Okay, ashritaha. I think some people have got out. Yes. And have to rejoin. Yep. So that much understanding at least is there. So that much understanding is there. He says there is some sort of attempt to know me, to follow me, etc., etc. Bhutadim avyayam. Bhutam ananya manasa. Bhajanti ananya manasaha. See, if you recognize Ishvara, some adoration, worship, at least if not structured formal worship, some spontaneous worship is natural. No? How do you feel when you go into the mountains and see that whole range after range after range stretching in front of you? Wow! You are awestruck by the whole thing. No? Go to the Himalayas and see the whole. You just wonderstruck with the whole thing. There's a natural adoration that comes into you. And if you are exposed to some structured worship, etc., it is natural to have it. How can you recognize Ishvara and not have some worship? As I said, may not be structured, but informally you will have that. How can you not have it? Yeah, it's natural to have. And if you are a mumukshu, someone who is desirous of moksha, a jignasu, then what happens? Next verse. Satatam kirtiyanta mam yatantascha dradavrataha namasyantascha mam bhaktya nityayukta upasate. This is the life of a karma yogi. Okay. Put in bhakti terms. Put in the language of bhakti. Okay. What is that? Satatam kirtayantaha mam. Singing my glories. Always. That singing your glories in your life, okay? Not necessary. Unless you are a good singer, please don't try to do that. If you are singing like how I sing, please don't. Let your life be a song for the Lord. Yeah. Let your life be a song. A celebration of His glories. Yeah. That's a different thing. Yeah. That's a different thing. Like once, when I used to do a lot of corporate training, after I was doing the morning session, somebody else was supposed to do the afternoon section. And the afternoon session was on creativity. And that person fell ill and he couldn't come. So they asked me, see all the participants here, can you please continue and do that? I said, I have never done a creative workshop in my life. I said, Swamiji, we are in desperate, there is nobody. We have to send everyone home. Please do that. I said, okay, I'll do. So I started by saying, okay, I am not technically looking at a creative person. I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't draw, I can't paint. If I draw a circle, it'll look like a potato. But I am creative enough to make the life I want. If that is what you're looking for, I can teach you how to do that. Are you getting that? That's real creativity. No? How do you bring creativity into your life? How you learn the lessons of creativity and apply it into your life. I also said the only art I have is martial art. Okay. No other art. Okay. That I'm not bad at. Okay. So I can be very creative and show you how to inflict damage in 10 different ways. Okay. Jokes apart, let your life be a song for the Lord. Okay. Let your life be something that is spent in appreciating the glories of the Lord. A life of gratefulness that, hey, I could do so many things. God's grace. I have not achieved much. Nothing much has happened in my life. The Lord has given me so many challenges for me to grow. Appreciate that. Yeah. More the challenges, the more possibilities for growth. I agree. There are times when you will say, oh Lord, give me a break. That's okay. That's okay. There will always be times like that. In all our lives, there have been times like that. I know you want me to grow, but I want a break for some time, It's okay. And that's all right. And by break, give me a break, I don't mean give me a Kit Kat, okay? If there are advertisers in the group, okay? All right. Therefore, satatam kirtayanta mam. Yatantascha dridavrataha. With a firm resolve, they are striving for moksha. Moksha, here I come. Come what may. Hey, how can my path towards moksha be blocked? No one can block my path to moksha. How can you? I am living a life of karma yoga. I have a teacher to study from. The Atma is there, all right. I am willing to do what it takes. How can anyone stop me from gaining moksha? Okay. Therefore, yatantascha dridavrataha. Namasyantascha mam bhaktya. Namastanse mam bhaktya. Always having a sense of surrender to me. Because all that I can do was because of the grace of the Lord. Therefore, recognizing that. The sense of surrender. Look at it. If I can talk and you can hear, it's all Ishvara's order, no? Including the Wi-Fi, that's also Ishvara's order only. Which we have harnessed using science, etc. So everything is Ishvara's order. That you can hear and understand Ishvara's order at play. And if sometimes the Wi-Fi goes off, that is also Ishvara's order in play. Yeah. There is therefore switch over to another system that works. Yeah. Ishvara's order. Thank God I have another system which makes it possible. Yeah. Therefore, namasyanse mam bhaktya nitya yuktaha upasate. Therefore, they worship me. Nitya yuktaha san. Never separate from me. They worship. The worship here is more of having a prayerful attitude in your life. Why do we do the external worship? So that we have a prayerful attitude. That prayerful attitude is what is the important thing. In other words, Ishvara Arpanam Prasada Buddhi, in short, constantly. Your actions are standing offered to the Lord. It's because of the Lord I can do all this. That recognition is always there. That understanding is not out of sight, out of mind. You may have worked hard for your achievements. I respect you all for that. I admire the way that you could put in that effort. I know people here, some of them have really put in a lot of effort to get what they had. Lot of things. Creative effort they have put in. I respect that. But it's Ishvara's order that made it possible, no? Without that, how can it be? Yeah. Without that, how can it be? So that recognition of Ishvara's order always. Therefore, naturally, Ishvara Arpanam, the prayerful attitude comes in. Prasada Buddhi with respect to the result. Whatever result comes is also Ishvara's grace. Ishvara's laws have created that result. Therefore, I accept it happily. Even though it's not what I wanted. Because you have no choice. It's dropped onto your lap. It's your baby. The good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is, I'll accept. Then I'll decide how to deal with it. Therefore, that question of that gratefulness, that prayerfulness, always there. It is that recognition that's supposed to be gratitude. Yeah. That is gratitude. Not that saying thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh, I could get this, I'm very grateful. Should be more global. Should be more global. That's why if you notice, see, this is cultural differences. I'm not talking about superiority of a culture or something, but this recognition. You know, saying a prayer before meals is there across cultures. All cultures have that. But if you look at the Western culture or Western religions, you thank thee, O Lord, for the bountiful gift we are about to receive from thy grace, from thy mercy. It's good. You are acknowledging Ishvara has given you all this. It's good. Nothing wrong about it or bad about it. But if you look at the way we do it, it's a little bit more refined. Brahmarpanam Brahmahavihi Brahmarpano Brahmanahutam Brahmeva tena gantavyam Brahma karma samadhina. It is Vedanta coming in that prayer. Everything is offered to Ishvara. You recognize everything comes from Ishvara, everything is Ishvara. Look at how much more refined the whole thing is. Of course, you know, this is high in wherever there is a Brahmanical culture, okay? North or south it is there. Though most of them will say Brahma, 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 Brahma. Come on, let's ready now. Let's eat. No, but that very fact of recognition. This is from Brahman, this is nothing but a manifestation of Brahman. The eater is Brahman, the eaten is Brahman, all that is there is only one Brahman. It's a very refined attitude, highly refined. All that is there is nothing but Ishvara then. So the seeds of this knowledge is put right there for a kid. Because once he has got his cross belting, you know what cross belting is, no? Upanayana. Okay. Yeah, I like to joke at my own culture, all right? Once you have got that, okay, then you are supposed to say this before you eat. You can't not say it. Yeah. So, okay, when there are a lot of friends, etc., around, you don't want to say it loud, say it quietly in your mind, it's okay. Because we are living in a cross-cultural society, everyone may not understand. But there is no need to be ashamed of it also. Yeah. Why? Why do they need to be ashamed of it? Yeah. But you make others uncomfortable. If they say grace, I am not uncomfortable. Then when I say my grace, why are you uncomfortable? Why? The onus is always on me to make others comfortable. They can't learn to be comfortable. Like how I learn to be comfortable. Yeah, believe me, I'm talking as a person who is comfortable across cultures. I have taken part in Eid feast for Eid, Yet Bakri Eid is coming, next week is Bakri Eid, but because of the pandemic, etc., I can't go anywhere and have a meal. And my Muslim friends will recognize that I am a vegetarian, therefore they will give me some vegetarian food. And we'll all sit in that huge thali and eat, where there are katoris for all the liquids. And things are, we have separate servings. I'm comfortable with that. Arey, same plate se jhuta nahi hai. Come on, give it a break. Yeah. Jhuta business came out of hygiene. When you don't exchange body fluids. Here, if you have your own separate food, you are not exchanging any body fluids, okay? Your saliva, etc. is not me. And within a family, it is perfectly okay. Yeah. Yeah, the Shastra also mentions between husband and wife, between family members, between close friends, between guru and disciples, all that is fine. So it mentions that. Yeah. So that be comfortable, and be comfortable with what I am in my own skin, and recognize the beauty of the whole thing, okay? Therefore, when you do that, okay, nitya yuktaha upasate, you have this prayerful attitude in life. Therefore, Karma Yoga is the most natural thing for you to do. You are a Nitya Karma Yogi. Always. Karma Yoga doesn't become out of sight, out of mind. Or Karma Yoga doesn't become a special time. Okay, these activities are Karma Yoga activities. Sometimes when you go to some ashrams, I've seen this. This is a deterioration of our culture. Kya bolega? Everyone is supposed to do 2 hours of Karma Yoga in the ashram. So what is that? So I asked them, I saw the board in the office. I said, Maharaj ji, what is that? Maharaj ji, ये तो आपके लिए नहीं है. ये तो गृहस्थ लोग के लिए. This is not for you. You have come as a Mahatma, it is not for you. I said, but I would like to understand what it is. They are supposed to do some work in the ashram free. Don't call it Karma Yoga, call it Seva. Karma Yoga is Nityam 24/7. Karma Yoga is 24/7. Your whole life is Karma Yoga. This is Seva. Voluntary work. Yeah. Voluntary work. Seva. Yeah. That's also a good idea to have. You volunteer somewhere, because otherwise you are working for money. Here you are willing to work pro bono. Like during COVID, I know a lot of people, including some of my students who did that well. Yeah. Finding hospital beds, oxygen cylinders, etc. Yeah. One of them is right here from Delhi. Yeah. Did a damn good job on it. Yeah. So, that is Seva, okay? That is separate. Karma Yoga is with respect to what you want. Of course, Karma Yoga Buddhi you better bring into Seva also. Yeah, that's a different thing. Yeah. Seva is Seva, Karma Yoga is Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is an attitude that encompasses all your activities. Yeah. Okay, therefore Nitya Yuktaha Upasate. This is the development of what happens when you accept Ishvara into your life, etc. It goes all the way up to this. Okay. Okay. So look at it. Again, here also, like in the previous two verses back, when he talked about the Asura Sampatti, Asura people, who don't have Ishvara in their lives, he went to an extreme. Isn't it? He went to an extreme by saying they become like Rakshasas and Asuras. That's an extreme. Yeah. You know, there is one story how the Rakshasas came around. Brahmaji, when after creating all the islands, it's a story, okay? Take it like a story. Don't take it like a fact. After having created, okay, the whole earth, creation, there were a lot of islands. So who is going to take care of the islands? He wanted volunteers from human beings. From this creation, he wanted people who will take care, who will nurture, protect the islands. Because life in an island is not easy, okay? When you go on a holiday, you enjoy it. Go to Maldives and all, you enjoy it. But ask the people who make your holiday enjoyable, how difficult their life is. They will tell you. I have done some training program for people from the hotel industry. Young trainees I have taken, and literally, especially people who are there in the Leela Hotel, Leela Pinta Hotel. I've done a lot of work with them. And the vice president would tell me something, Swamiji, just take them apart and put them together, rebuild them. I said, okay, I've given a free hand. So they would spend, in 2-year training program, they will spend 10 days with me. No one finishes the training program without spending 10 days with me. So they were a great bunch of youngsters. And they, I think, took my training the most seriously also. Really worked well for them. All of them are doing well. And some of them have gone to these island hotels. And I asked them, hey, life in island, great fun, no? Swamiji, we want to run away from here. There's such a problem here. So much of work, no break for us. For the holidays is break. Good, not for us. So Brahmaji wanted a tough group of people who were willing to make that. So a group of people stepped up and said, Rakshami, I will do that job. I will protect the islands. So their descendants, they were called Rakshakahas. People who protect. Their descendants became Rakshaka. So the Rakshasas are actually supposed to be descendants of these, okay? One story goes, okay? It's a story like that. Grammatically it fits. Rakshakasya apatyam Rakshasa. It fits in well. Okay? Yeah. So that is an exaggeration. Similarly, those who accept God in their life becomes all this, that's also an exaggeration. Meaning, showing to what level you can go. If you don't have Ishvara in your life, what level you can go. If you have Ishvara in your life, what level you can go. To range. The whole range he is talking about. Most of us remain in a very narrow range. You don't go that much. Even if you don't have Ishvara, we remain little bit this size, that's all. If you have Ishvara, we remain little bit this size, that's all. Yeah, it just remains that much. But this is the possibility. This is the possibility. So recognize the play of Ishvara in your life. It may be a good exercise before the next class. Those who really want to grow, really sit down. This pandemic time, it's a good time to do this. See the play of Ishvara in your life, how you are affected by it. Whenever you have problematic, think of it as negative karma going off. Whatever positive is your positive karma and God's grace coming into your life. Look at that play. It will be very, very interesting. See that pattern in your life. It will be very interesting to see it. If you really get good at it, very often you will be able to tell your future pattern. Yeah. You'll be able to. But you have to be really get good at that. So how do I become good at it? By recognizing pattern right now and start. Yeah. Then as my life moves forward, I keep recognizing. Then I learn how to project outwards into the future. But remember one thing, what this great philosopher said, prediction of the future is the most difficult of all the mystical arts. You know the philosopher who said that, no? No? I quoted him in the class some time back. Dumbledore from Harry Potter. Okay. But there is truth in that statement. Yeah, there is truth in that statement. But you will be able to project when you see the pattern, because then you see the major big pattern in your life and you will be able to get into it. Okay. So it will be a good exercise, because that will make Ishvara real. The play of Ishvara in your life becomes very real, you know. Barabar hai. Yeah, if you have gone through major challenges, you will see the play of Ishvara there, God's grace. Baba, bach gaya. I am alive today because of God's grace. You can say that. It's easier. But we have not gone through such major upheavals. Our upheaval was loss of a job or having to relocate somewhere, something like that. No, there is no major upheaval. So within that framework, if you see this, the play of Ishvara is very, very good for growth. That happens. Ishvara becomes real. Karma Yoga becomes even more real. I know all of you are into Karma Yoga well. I can make that out. Okay? And it becomes even more real, even better. Then what next? What is next? Next he goes into various facts of worship, etc. Okay? And he gives you such a variety that you can pick and choose whatever you want to do. Whatever you can relate to, whatever you are comfortable with, etc. But that we will see in the next class. Okay. Oh yes, thanks for reminding me, Nirmala. Next week is 24th Saturday. All of you must have received a message about Guru Purnima. So that starts at 6 o'clock. Okay? And therefore, 5 o'clock class we won't have. Okay? Because 6 to 8 straight. Link, etc. will be sent up. I'll put it in all the classes, etc. What is the Zoom link for all that? So instead of 5 to 6, we'll have 6 to 8. I hope you don't have any dinner program before that and all that. Yeah, and this time you will hear some of the students also saying a few things. Okay, of the things that happen in their life because of Vedanta. We'll start with, of course, our usual Vyasa Puja a little bit, etc. A few minutes. Then Swamini will speak. I probably will speak at the end. And in between you will have other things also coming in. Acknowledging all the whole parampara. It's a great day because we are acknowledging the whole parampara. Because I am blessed because of the teachers before me. And the later generations are going to be blessed because of what all of us do. So the parampara becomes important. So we will do that next Saturday. So no class next Saturday. Straight at 6 o'clock we will meet. Okay. So see you all next Saturday then. Om Tat Sat. Take care. Have a great time.